just how kind of you handled this week, of all the changes that have happened.
Yeah, definitely a unique week. I've been in this profession for a long time, and you think you've gone through a lot of different experiences, and this one was certainly a new one. I've been blown away, humbled, and impressed by how everyone's rallied together and focused. The support that I've received, and you take it one meeting, one day at a time, until you kind of find your groove. So it's been a process, a bit of a whirlwind, but impressed and humbled by everybody around me.
When did you get the word that UConn plays?
Fairly close to the same time you guys did.
Well, we didn't find out until yesterday.
Yeah, there were some conversations along the way, but obviously Coach Albrecht made the announcement yesterday, and that's when it became official.
What was your reaction when you found out? When you learned that the responsibilities would change?
Nathaniel Hackett's one of the greatest men I know, and one of my closest, dearest friends. So getting an opportunity like this, which is an incredible opportunity, definitely came with a bittersweet taste, because I love that man. I love his family. I think the world of him as a coach. I think even more of him as a person and a friend. And so, a lot of different emotions go through your brain. But, obviously it's an unbelievable opportunity, and I'm excited to do my best to help.
Are you planning on being on the field or in the booth?
Still working through that. In my past as a play caller, I've been on the field. I like to look guys in the eyes. So, we'll see how that all shakes out. But, hopefully that's how it works.
Todd, one thing that the offense to this point has received criticism for is the lack of motioning, the lack of creativity, things like that. Specifically with motioning, is that something you would like to implement more of? Is it possible to make scheme changes like that in the middle of the season when you've been repping in a certain way for a while?
I think each week as you prepare for, the defense you're going against, you look for ways to create advantages. You look for ways to put stress on the defense. Sometimes that'll involve motion, and sometimes that could involve unique formations, things like that. I think it's going to be a week-by-week basis. And as far as how much you can implement in the middle of the season, I think we have a really smart group of players. I think they can handle a lot. But that's going to be a case-by-case basis on how we think we can create advantage.
Aaron obviously had a unique relationship with Nate. They've gone back a long time, so the play calling relationship, they kind of knew each other's language and all that stuff. So how do you go about that relationship with Aaron going forward, and how you guys approach this, the way Aaron operates at the line of scrimmage and all that? Yeah,
well, fortunately, first of all, Nathaniel's always been very collaborative in this process, and so I've been able to, be in those meetings and listen to some of the nuance of, how they discuss things. Second of all, I've been in every meeting that Aaron's been in from a position standpoint and an offensive standpoint. So, I think I've kind of learned a different language that way in some regards. And then, obviously, things are going to come out of my mouth a little differently. So there is going to be a process of figuring out, the best way to communicate with him. And, I want to be an open book to how I can best serve him and every one of our players.
Todd, you're now running the show and doing the game plan and calling the plays. I'm sure you're running the meetings now with the guy who you replaced in the same room. Is that awkward at all? Usually when a team makes a change, the guy who's the other guy's out, but he's still here, and I'm just wondering how awkward that situation is.
I think you're absolutely right that in a normal circumstance with normal or everyday people, it would be. I can't express to you the respect, the just reverence I have for the way Nathaniel has gone about his business. From the moment the switch occurred, he walked into my office and told me that he wanted to support me and see me succeed in this role, and that the only thing that mattered to him was this offense putting together a good product and us winning football games. He put his ego aside. He is an absolute servant, and it really has been humbling to watch how he's handled this. So I think most people out there, if they went through what he's going through, they'd make it awkward. He has not. He has stood up and answered the bell in ways that I couldn't even have imagined.
I think those of us who watched training camp and joint practices thought this team was going to have a really strong run game. That's what it looked like in the summer. It hasn't materialized. What has gone wrong with the rushing attack?
First of all, this team does have a strong run game. We just haven't seen it come to fruition consistently enough. Secondly, I think there become times where you can find people pressing a little bit because there's an expectation for production, and when it's not met, you can feel a sense of urgency. But I believe our guys are ready to answer the bell and make the quarter-turn adjustments we need to make to get this thing on track.
Jeff had talked about he may not be involved like the details of the game plan, but that he wanted to establish a style of offense. What have your conversations been with him about the style, and how do you envision the style of his offense? Play.
Coach Albrecht and I have a really cool relationship in that I would bounce things off him in training camp. He'd come talk to me, just about style of play and maybe how we've approached things in different buildings and all that. And I think the energy he walks around this building with is infectious to those guys, and I expect those guys to gravitate towards, the physicality he likes out of the game of football and the opportunity to create one-on-one battles where at the end of the play who got the best of who, and it's going to be fun to watch that personality kind of emulate through the locker room.
Before one of your games earlier this year, I think NFL Network did a pregame report that talked about how you guys were sending Aaron to the line with a couple of different plays or a few different plays. I think they said 3, and then he was picking which one he wanted to run at the line. By Aaron's own admission, I think there's been a couple games this year that haven't been up to his standard. Do you think that maybe condensing that or just giving him a play to go run could help him with some other things that are maybe doing issues? Is that a change you want to make or status quo?
I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit with motions. There are some games where you want to try to create an advantage by getting on the ball and being able to see what they're in defensively and then play the chess game that way. And then there are going to be games where you feel, pretty confident about what type of defense you're going to see and you have a best call for that, And so we'll work through that, as each situation comes up. And I do think that there's a place for any well-prepared quarterback in this league to have some say at the line of scrimmage, and I also think there's a place to just break the huddle and fire off the football.
How big will it be for this group to get Morgan back this week?
He's an incredible leader. Hearing his voice out there and just the command he has in the huddle when he speaks, everybody else listens. And obviously the passion he plays the game with when the ball snapped is contagious as well. I love Morgan. We're very fortunate to have him, and from my standpoint, he's a tone setter on this offense.
It's been a couple of years since you've had this role. Is there any difference in you? Is the transition smooth? I mean, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I think we're all a product of our life experiences, and so I've always tried to be reflective first as I've gone through, different opportunities as they've come and gone in my career. So I hope I'm wiser. I hope I'm sharper, and I hope I have the opportunity to showcase the experiences that I've accumulated over the years.
What do you see for the Bills defense this game plan for them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've been together a long time, right? And so there's a lot of discipline on that side of the ball. I think they play well together. They understand all the adjustments within their scheme. You can see that they're all on the same page. Very rarely are they showing mental errors or busting coverage or missing a run gap fit or something like that. And so when you're playing a team that is so disciplined and so prepared, you have to be on your P's and Q's as well, and you have to find a way to win the line of scrimmage.
It's pretty obvious there's been some frustration from guys like Brees and Garrett. And you mentioned pressing and all that. How can you help them through that when they've been going through a rough patch here to start the season?
Well, first is relatability. I think everybody gets frustrated when we don't put the product out there that we expect to. Everybody in this building works extremely hard, and just because the results weren't there and some changes were made doesn't change everybody's intent when they've walked into this building every day. I would be concerned if those competitors weren't frustrated with lack of production or lack of targets or lack of whatever. I think what's happened this week has given us a chance to really try to draw closer as a family. And my hope for us going forward is that instead of those frustrations, if they do come up, manifesting in unhealthy ways, that it manifests itself in healthy conversations.
How can you get Aaron
Last one here.
playing the way most people expect Aaron to play. The last couple of weeks have not been up to his usual standard.
Yeah, in a 2-decade career, he has very few blips on the radar. And I know that Aaron himself has said that the last couple of weeks aren't up to his standard, but that does not necessarily sound an alarm. He knows how to prepare. He knows how to diagnose defenses. He knows how to run the show on offense, and that's what we're anticipating this week.